my parents were really struggling. My father was in and out of jail. My mother was, trying to take care of myself and my sister, all on her own. It was a lot. It was a lot to handle. Made me quickly realize that that's not the life that I want for myself. That's not the life that I want for my future family. I started to realize, I can build a personal brand. I can build an image that goes around what I do. So I'm always working with like the luxury industry. I'm always out there with the guys with the yachts and the jets and the cars and stuff. So I'm like, I've already got these relationships. How can I leverage them as a broker and a marketer? Things that are going to build my wealth of knowledge, things that I'm able to use and translate back into my business. That's the most important thing.
You have a tribe of over 300,000 followers on Instagram alone. Incredible. Talk to us about that.
One of the things that really helped with me at the initial stages was being.
Today's conversation is with a gentleman by the name of Chris Marchese. An incredible journey Chris has had. He's gone from living in a $5 million mansion down to living in community housing and then building his empire back up again. And he'll share all the tips and tricks that you need to build a business, how to get started, how to go from having nothing to having a mindset and focus to be able to build an empire that has reached millions and millions of dollars. And beyond that, having a following or a tribe on Instagram that far exceeds 330,000 followers. Chris is going to dive into the exact strategies that he would do if he had to start all over again. So if you want to understand how to grow a business, how to conduct sales, how to hit up marketing, how sales and marketing go hand in hand, you sure don't want to miss this episode. Chris, welcome to Tea Talks.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it, TJ.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I know we've been trying to get this thing sorted out for some time, and either you've been busy or I've been busy, and I'm glad we were able to make this meet.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Definitely been in the works for a little while, back and forth trying to plan. I think this the third time we planned it, but finally able to see it through.
I think so. No, which is good. I'm so glad. We were hoping for it to be in person, but things didn't match up the way as we expected. But I wanted to get this out there, this conversation, because I know how important it's going to be, not only for the two of us, but I think for our audience as well, to really understand, what your journey has been. And then maybe let's touch into that, right? Like you've had some humble beginnings and you've built this amazing, incredible business, and that all started from nothing, right? So just tell us about that.
When I was growing up, we had a lot of ups and downs, you could say the least, for sure. My grandfather, he was my first mentor growing up. Once I got a little bit older, but in the earlier ages, from like 2 to like 5, he was actually running as the vice president of Mattamy Homes. So very successful architect, very successful businessman and entrepreneur on the side as well. So grew up a lot in his house, and back then it was like 1990s. He was in like a $5 million mansion back then, right? So definitely, a lot of like luxury lifestyle, like living up to those type of things up into that age, but then had a full turnaround. So like both my parents, they've struggled with addiction their entire life, unfortunately. My grandfather said enough is enough, and he had to kind of cut things off. We ended up moving into like government funded housing, Ontario housing, we call it here in Ontario. I'm sure you know that. But for any other fans that are out there that don't know about that, it's government funded housing. So moved into that when I was 5, 6. My parents were really struggling. My father was in and out of jail. My mother was trying to take care of myself and my sister, all on her own. It was a lot. It was a lot to handle. And one day we had the superintendent just kind of call, and he's like, these kids aren't really being watched. I was out there like 12 o'clock midnight walking my dog down the streets of Jane and Wilson. Probably not the safest, but I was like, I grew up fast. I had to go through childhood quickly. Didn't really have much of a childhood, but it made me go who I am today, made me stronger, made me more resilient, persevere through any of the hard times. So definitely value that. But yeah, from there, ended up going into foster home, was separated from my sister for a majority of our life. About 10 years we were separated. I didn't see her. She didn't see me while we went through, social services, everything like that. I was then removed from social services by my grandparents on my father's side. So this is my nonno is what we call them in Italian. So they took care of me, really gave me a great heritage, gave me a great upbringing. really went back to like the roots of that Italian heritage, right? So learned a lot from them, and really changed my perspective on things of like, you know, I've had some hard times, but I've also had some good times. And if I lean into the good times and really value those good times and feel grateful and positive within those good times, I can make more of them. I was probably about, yeah, I think it was 17. I was working at Premier Fitness, the gym back when it was a thing. We all know the story behind Premier Fitness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was working there. That was my sales job, my first sales job out of school. Was doing corporate sales there and absolutely crushing it. Was ranked, number one salesperson in Ontario for a couple of months there. And I was
Wow.
like, wow, like I can really do this. And I had some rough times in between after those couple months, just dealing with family members in and out of the hospital and stuff like that. Ended up losing my grandfather the same night that I was in the hospital. Actually, I got into a bad car accident. My friend was driving. We got T-boned on my side of the car, so they had to use like
Wow.
jaws of life to open the door. And somehow we ended up in the same hospital, my grandfather and I, that same night. And he ended up passing away, but I didn't get to see him, unfortunately, because I was, downstairs in another bed. But crazy the way that kind of lined up. So could almost see it as he was my guardian angel there, potentially saved my life in that accident. Um, yeah, yeah,
Wow. No, that's an incredible journey, Chris. I mean, and it doesn't end there, right? So I mean, that's just getting started. Is how I would look at it as. But talk to me a little bit about going from that $5 million mansion to, you know, government funded housing. You're what? I think five at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. 5,
What
6.
what does a 5, 6 year old think at that time? What's going through your head?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I struggled as a kid for sure. I did. My parents were really out of the picture a lot of the time. As my father was in and out of prison and running from the police. That's pretty much what his life was while I was young. So I didn't see much of him, but even my mom, she struggled a lot too. So it was hard for me to find somebody to confide in even during that time. And I kind of acted out a little bit, right? I had friends. I spent time with those friends. Usually those friends were like a lot older than me, picking up not so great qualities. For sure, you could say that. But yeah, it was a big change for sure. I mean, going from like I have like photos of myself when I was a baby of swimming and learning how to swim with my grandfather in his indoor swimming pool in his mansion there, and then going from that to Ontario housing. And literally we were sleeping on the floor on yoga mats. We didn't even have beds back
Wow.
then when we originally moved in, and that was for months and months. It was quite the turn, quite the change. And yeah, as a kid, I was like, what's going on? Like, why are we in this situation? I quickly realized that we're in that situation because of my parents' actions and their habits and their lifestyle. I would see people come over, and they're selling drugs to my mom in the kitchen, and I'm like 7 years old seeing that type of stuff, and I
Yeah.
I knew what was going on early, right? Um, but yeah, it was quite the change, quite the difference. But it made me quickly realize that that's not the life that I want for myself. That's not the life that I want for my future family. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to ensure that that is not the case. And I move far away from that type of lifestyle and that type of environment
Yeah.
to ensure that I put myself around the right people, that I learn from them, that I pick up the good qualities and the good traits, and find myself becoming successful.
Incredible for one, for you to recognize that, and then two, for you to put yourself away. Majority of the people that are raised in those environments stay there,
Yes.
right? And they end up staying and not by any other reason, but just by habit, right? So it just becomes the norm. How did you break away from all that?
Honestly, it's crazy to think about it too. I even wonder myself sometimes how I could make such a judgment at such an early age. But I felt a lot of pain. I felt a lot of hurt. I felt a lot of abandonment, you could say, right, with my parents not being there for me and not facilitating the type of lifestyle that I would like, that I seen my other friends having, or other family members having. It's like I've got to change this. Things have got to be different, and I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if it takes my entire life, but I'm going to ensure that, when I do have a family, that I'm going to raise that family with the best means possible. I'm going to give them everything that I wish that I had, that I did have, as in, from up until 5 years old, all of those wonderful things in life that come from working hard, that come from, um, being aspirational and having ambition to achieve your dreams. That's the only reason why my grandfather had those type of things, and I knew that, and I realized that, and I've always, since that day, I realized it like 7 years old. Since that day, I really pushed on doing things, and of course, you have ups and downs throughout life, and like I said, up until I was like 17, when I got my job at Premier Fitness, I was still going through that, navigating and finding difficulty, not being able to open up and be myself. There was times where I would go like months without speaking to my parents or my family or anybody. Like I just go to school, come home, go to school, come home. I wouldn't have any actual dialogue with my family while I was at home, because it was just so difficult to speak with them without
Wow.
feeling ridiculed or some sort of embarrassment, because they saw who I was becoming, and they realized that, Chris is going to be much different than we are. And I think they felt that guilt, and that made it difficult for us to even find like a middle ground to bond,
Wow.
find a mesh, right? I've always been there for my parents. I've always tried my best to do what I can for my parents and try and show them the other side of things, who they can become, who they want to become is all possible. It's just a matter of, doing the work. But you can't change somebody's mind. You can't change somebody's perspective. That has to be done on their own. But I do my best. I do my best, and I never give up. I can never give up. Right?
No, rightfully so, right? I mean, to your point, we can educate, we can inform, but that decision on the other side has to be theirs, and once they're ready for that, and who knows, maybe there's gonna be a time when everyone changes at a different point in time, requires a different trigger, and maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that's not something that you can ultimately control, right? What you can do is control yourself, how you show up, and what you do, and those tough decisions that you've had to make throughout have also helped you build businesses, right? Let's talk about that. That courage, that resilience, which building a business takes, you've had in you since day one, and you applied that as a strength in towards business. So tell me about your businesses. What have you done? What are you working on? What are you doing right now?
That's the one of the things I'm super grateful for. Going through those hard times, building that resilience, that perseverance. It, it it definitely instilled a lot of different values in me that made me become successful, and gave me that drive and determination that I have today to see things through. And more than anything, I'm really, really thankful for, the leadership tendencies that it gave me. If I started playing hockey at an early age, and I'd bounce in and out of hockey and stuff, but played hockey at a competitive level. And, that's when I really, really got into the leadership side of things, where I'm like, I can take this group of guys here and really mold them into, a different version of themselves, which ultimately makes the team better as a whole. And I saw that throughout hockey. And I'm like, I can take this into business. I can take this into anything. If I can make a group, a community, a tribe of people that stand behind me and I stand behind them, and we're there to see each other grow. At the end of the day, we're here in this world. We're here in life to serve each other, right? So that's the way that I ultimately see it. And I always want to be able to bring people into my business and help them become successful. And that's literally where the business started. So I started off as a personal brand. So again, kind of stemming from the hockey side of things, I started off a personal brand in the automotive scene. We ended up having, 40,000 people worldwide within our club called Elusive Auto Club. So we're Elusive Toronto, Montreal, New Jersey, Sacramento, all the way into Melbourne, Australia, all over the place, a whole bunch of different chapters. Those are just, a handful. But we were really big and scaled really quickly, and that was all off the automotive scene. So like we would do events at the track, we would do rallies, we do a lot of charity drives, things like that. Toys for Tots was one of the biggest ones that we did. We raised, close to 25,000 one year for Christmas for all the kids there. Showed up, like 100 of us with all cars full of toys, just handing them out. It was great. It was a really good feeling. So we did a lot of that, gave back a lot, as much as we possibly could. especially to the people in need that can't really fend for themselves. And that's one of the biggest things for me within business is to be able to give back, and that's truly why I do it. But yeah, you look at that. We scaled into having our own shop back in 2019, and COVID kind of came in and slapped us, unfortunately. But it was good as a blessing in disguise. That's the way that I see it for sure. I never see things as a failure. I always see it as a lesson. So I took quite some lessons off of that one for sure. We were like 36,000 square feet, huge shop, covering everything A to Z. Like you come in, we're covering your performance, we're covering your automotive aesthetics, like absolutely everything. We're doing wraps, tires, rims, superchargers, you name it, right? So our plan with that was eventually to franchise then into the other chapters like New York, New Jersey, things like that. Um, but since COVID came, we had to pivot. We had no choice but to pivot. And here in Ontario, we were locked in for a little bit. So during that time, that's actually when I started getting back into this here behind me, my artwork.
Yeah.
So started pushing on the artwork again, and really got into the creative space. I'm like, I'm locked inside. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. May as well work with my mind and try and bring something to life that I've always loved to do. So like I've always done like I was always into like art class and stuff like that throughout high school, growing up. And I would do like graffiti works and stuff like that. But I'm like, what can I do that's different? So I started doing like cartoon characters, nostalgic characters, stuff like that that like resonated with me when I was a kid.
Right.
So like Marvin the Martian, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Scrooge McDuck, stuff like that. And then I was like, how can I take this to a whole new level? Instead of just having one character on a canvas, let me mix and match a whole bunch of characters. So like I'll show you this one here.
Yeah.
So
I'll see this.
this one's here, not done yet, of course, but I've got quite a few different characters, so it's hard to see. But I got Mickey Mouse down here, his ears all over here, his head, his eyes. It's gonna be finished off. That's his nose over here. I've got like a anime character, so I'm gonna finish her face here. This is the Mad Hatter. We got Popeye, of course.
Yeah.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. And then this character is one of my first characters that I'm launching actually. So it's great to be able to debut that here. But this character is going to be called the Money Bunny. So we can see he's holding a handful of cash here.
Yeah.
I added some mirrors into this one to make it a little bit different. So not only are you looking at the art, but you're now immersed in the art by looking through the mirror
Amazing.
at yourself, right? So it's really fantastic, and I love that. I love being creative, and having those two sides of me where I can really segment that of like, okay, I'm a businessman. I'm doing sales. I'm doing marketing. I'm doing private equity deals. That's where I am during the daytime, and then during the
Yeah.
time, I'm like, okay, now I'll dive into my creative side. And that honestly, having those two sides really helps me flow. And like I'm a Libra, so you gotta like scale things and weight things, and you not like to be nice and even.
No, I love that. I love that. And I mean, you touched on a lot of different things there, but one of the things you touched on was building that tribe. And if I look at, from where you and I connected and where we met, you have a tribe of over 300,000 followers on Instagram alone,
Yes.
right? Uh, Incredible. Talk to us about that. How do you build such a tribe for those that are listening? There's a huge play on social now, and I think people are waking up to that whole aspect. And there are a lot of people that think that maybe it's too late for social now
Right.
because it's so difficult to get in. What are your thoughts on that, and what's some advice that people can do today to get active on social to build that tribe?
One of the things that really, really helped with me at the initial stages was being consistent. Like I would post, 2, 3 times a day, every single day. And I would be posting very consistent content. Like my page today is nothing like what it was, 5 years ago. My page was strictly car content. So it's, we have a whole bunch of photographers that we work with, videographers that we work with, that I segmented into my marketing business as we had to make that pivot in 2019 actually. But was working with a lot of photographers, videographers consistently, and we were making great, great, great content. And we would always be posting that content, have it be on my, Elusive Toronto page, my own personal page, the Elusive Auto Club page, just having, consistent content being posted all the time. And that really helped with hitting that demographic. So, people that want to see car posts or car enthusiasts, they're gonna be diehard fans, right? They're gonna like what they're seeing, and they're gonna keep liking it. They're gonna keep sharing it, especially if it's a car that's similar to theirs. So the the Mopar community is kind of where we targeted our guys. So it's all like we were like close to 100 Jeep SRTs and Trackhawks just in our Jeep chapter,
Wow.
just here in Toronto. And then like, close to 100 Challengers, 100 Chargers. We had like the Chrysler 300s, just like those were our group of cars that we really were like our core members,
Yeah.
because that's what I was driving to. So it made sense to kind of go after that niche demographic. And then yeah, that just translated into everything else. Like we started doing the events, we started doing like family events as well. So our family events would consist of like birthday parties, going out for dinners, going out bowling, going out go karting, whatever. Just building that company culture, that family culture within it. And then, all the other times we're at the track, we're rallying, we're driving, we're doing donuts and burning tires, just having a great time, having a fun time, enjoying the cars that we bought rather than just letting them sit there like a majority of people. And that's what made us stand out. It-
Right.
You go to these car shows and stuff. A lot of the time you're just kind of parked up there. You're sitting there for, 7, 8 hours, just kind of waiting for something to happen. And, if something happens, that's pretty much the end of the deal where they're like, okay, this guy wins a trophy. This guy wins a trophy. See you guys later. But, at our events, it was much different. It was, we would have a full itinerary built at the show to make it an absolute hitter and make people want to talk about it for weeks afterwards. To be like, when's the next one? When's the next one? Right? Really build that excitement. So like we would do lowrider limbo. We would do like sound competition. Who's got the loudest car? Who's got like the best exhaust? Who's got the best wrap? We would have like 40 different trophies ready to go, right? So it's like really appealing to that demographic. And the best part about it is we would always grab, if we're not at the track, we would always get, proper insurance and proper liability forms and everything like that signed and section off the area. And we would do like donuts and burnouts and stuff like that, which really built that hype and built that name for us. And then we started, selling merchandise, making it an automotive lifestyle brand where, everyone we would show up to an event and everyone's got the shirt on, everyone's got the sweater on, the hats, like you name it, right? We're decked out. So that's kind of where I started to realize, I can build a personal brand. I can build an image that, goes around what I do. And I'm like, okay, well, now I want to build my image as an artist. How can I build my image as an artist? What do I have to do? What are some of the things that's going to propel my trajectory a lot faster than it would anybody else? Because a lot of people, have them be artists, musicians, whatever. They're still artists as a musician, but people that are in that side of things, it's really difficult to actually get somewhere in life. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes it could take your entire life and you still make nothing of yourself, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I'm not going to have that. I'm going to ensure that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make a name for myself in a short period of time because I know how to do personal branding. I know how to market myself. I know how to bring myself to that level. So let's do it. And that's exactly what I did. I kind of looked at, people in the industry here in Toronto, people in the industry here over in Miami. And I'm like, okay, so these guys are doing this, this, and this. This is where they started. This is where they are now. Let's see what I have to do in between to get to that stage, right? So I saw, a lot of these guys, they were making artwork and they were gifting them to famous celebrities. So I started doing that. I started making artwork and gifting them to celebrities, making a name for myself, making myself look more credible in the scene, right? So I do stuff like that at the earlier stages. I started doing like collaboration work. So I find other artists that are bigger than me and collaborate with them. So now I'm leveraging their audience. That would help me grow as well. So I did stuff like that and just kind of climbed the ladder really quickly. Started getting press release articles in different magazines like Medium, New York Weekly, Spencer Magazine here in Toronto, just to name a couple. But getting that PR really helped boost my credibility as well. So now I could start charging more. I started getting represented by different galleries and different fine art consultants and stuff like that. So I've
Amazing.
only been doing art since 2019, basically 5 years, and like 4 or 5 years, give or take. But having gotten so far so fast, it's absolutely incredible. Like this year, I have an art show for the Art Expo in New York. That's April 3rd to the 5th. And then I've got another art show in Dubai coming in July. And then I got another art show in Miami at Art Basel in December. And that's just what's lined up right now. And, we're just starting March. So there's going to be obviously a lot more coming. But that's just on the art side of the business where, I really wanted to get that personal brand built, and that personal brand will then translate more into, the successful entrepreneur team business where I have the marketing, the sales, and the VC work. They kind of go hand in hand how everything works. Like so set works as a silo, as a vertical. And the way that it works is, people will come in and they're looking for sales. So they want to increase their sales, they want to increase their revenue, they want, better SOPs to really up their conversion rate optimization. So we'll come in and we'll build a whole system, make it really streamlined for them to be more hands off so that they can make more money through different AI systems, which I know you're very familiar with as well. So having those AI systems, now they can eliminate, an employee here, an employee there, an expense here, an expense there, which ultimately gives them a increased revenue. So that's kind of what we do on just that side of it. But if people come in and they need that service, a lot of the time they also need, funnels, they need content created, they need copywriting, they need scripting, email marketing, things like that. And that's the other side of the business where we have set marketing. So if they come in for set sales, we link them in with set marketing. And then once they get to a certain, revenue generated, we can help them then diversify their portfolio into different assets, have that be real estate, have that be, tech startups, whatever it is that they want to kind of allocate their money into, we can help them with that. Or it works, the opposite way around. People come in, they would need injection capital. Quick example is one of the clients we're working with right now. They came in, they needed 2-3 million injection capital. We helped them secure that capital. And then we also have a budget on the side out of that capital that goes back into their marketing expenditures. So it funnels back into the company for us. So that's how we kind of built the silo, and everything works really well. It's a great system, well-oiled machine.
Very cool. Very cool. And there's a lot there that, obviously a lot of moving parts.
Yeah,
Uh, how big is the team? I'd love to understand that aspect of it as well, for our listeners who might be interested in engaging and connecting with you.
absolutely. So right now we're close to 40 people, but we're actually going to be hiring 200 more salespeople over the next 3 months.
Wow.
So yeah, really scaling our sales team, and that's one of the reasons for that is we started getting into the event side of things. So anyone who's here in Toronto or in Canada, I'm sure you've probably heard of the conference. It's called the Multifamily Conference. That's the biggest conference in Canada. This year we're actually renamed it as the Powerhouse Conference. So it's going to be more sales, marketing, and investor related. So it's not just going to be so much multifamily. It's going to be more on the business side. So there's going to be a wider demographic there and more people to meet, honestly. So super great event. I was there last year. I brought my sales team in. We were selling on the floor for Seth and working with him hand in hand. This year I've taken it as a full partnership. So I'm coming in, I'm doing his sales, I'm doing his marketing, I'm doing the front end sales for tickets prior to the event. So that's why we're building all this big sales team here right now, because the event is at the end of May. And then we're going to take all of the best closers from our team and bring them to the floor to sell on the floor there. For that, it's going to be actually a 5-day event. So it's going to be 3 days for most people, 23rd to the 25th. And then for all those people who are 8-figure earners, they're going to have an additional 2 days to be working with them as well. So that's kind of where we've, pivoted in with the sales side of things and the sales consulting side of things to really work with, big conferences like that. And again, we came in, we helped with some injection capital, and now we're helping with the marketing and sales. So it's a really good business plan that we've set up here over the last 3 years. And when you get into business, you got to test the market. Like when we first started off, we were just doing content. I was working with cars, yachts, and jets, to be specific. I was working in the luxury industry, which helped me position myself as also, someone of credibility. So, coming from the car side of things, and I live in Miami half the time, so I'm always working with like the luxury industry. I'm always out there with the guys with the yachts and the jets and the cars and stuff. So I'm like, I've already got these relationships. How can I leverage them as a broker and a marketer? So, we started brokering their deals, and then we started actually working with them, providing them with, top grade content, drone work, photos, all that. But, you really see where you start from when you don't have all the knowledge that you need, and then where you get to in, a span of 3 years with gaining so much knowledge. And that's one of the biggest things that is crucial to me is I'm always learning, always learning. I hardly listen to music. I don't watch TV. The only thing that I do when I'm like, having my downtime is this right here behind me. And
Yeah.
even during that time, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to things that are going to build my wealth of knowledge, things that I'm able to use and translate back into my business and reiterate for my own self and my own team. That's the most important thing to me. I always want to be learning and teaching.
No, and that's the way to go. That's the rule I have in my household as well. Like I don't watch TV either. Like it's, maybe on an odd Saturday night I'll watch something on Netflix, but beyond that, I'm not touching anything. Throughout the week, podcasts or YouTube videos of some sort that kind of, really amp up your knowledge and not the mindless ones. And I tell my kids the same thing. I'm like, watch something that will educate you, inform you, but don't watch on what I call mindless TV, where you're just kind of glued into this thing. And even with social, I'm not on social in the same way. I create content, I don't consume,
Yes,
right?
me too.
So it's an addiction.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely, and we maximize our time by doing that, right? It's efficiency. Like you and I, we've got goals, and we we're gonna hit those goals regardless of what it takes. We make sure that there's how do you get to those goals faster than anyone else? Obviously, look at what other people have done to get there, reiterate and make it your own, and make it better. But at the same time, is really eliminating all those distractions as much as you possibly can, because there are so many distractions out there, especially today, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and they're designed for that, and they're called distractions for that reason, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take you, take the eye off the ball, and that becomes a big pain. I want to jump on something else as well, Chris. I know we've talked about a lot of different things here. You're building these businesses. What if someone wanted to start this business, and what if you were starting from scratch all over again,
Uh,
right? From 0 to 1 million.
yeah.
What's the first 3 or 4 things you would do?
One product, one service, and just stick with that. Like when you start off as an entrepreneur and you're kind of learning and feeling out the market, you're like, okay, what's my offer? Okay, I can sell content. Okay, I can sell advertising. Okay, I can sell websites. I can sell this. I can sell that. What do I sell? How do I position myself as an expert in this space? And the only way to really solidify yourself as an expert in the space is not be a generalist. Don't offer everything. Offer one thing, and offer that one thing and fulfill it really well, and make sure that you nurture your clients really well. And you're going to get referrals through your clients by nurturing them really well and delivering really well on what you said you're going to. And that's how you can really scale a lot quicker, I think, and a lot more sustainably, rather than kind of bouncing around and feeling out like, let me do this, let me do that. And like, I'll be completely honest and transparent. Like, I went to college, and then out of college, I went to industrial mechanic work. So I was an industrial mechanic. I certified industrial mechanic millwright. I did that for like 10 years. And then after that, I like in that time, I made my own business as well. And then I sold that business off because I was like, okay, I want to get out of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm way too intelligent to be sitting here and working on machines and working with tools all day. I need to work with my mind. I need to work with my brain. I need to lead people. I have too much ambition, and I need to help people. I need to help people. I can't help people here. So I'm like, let me get out of this. And then, moving out of that, I was like, okay, what can I do to make money? Because I need to make money. That's the number one thing. And it doesn't matter who I want to help. I need to help myself first. Otherwise, I can't help anybody. I'm no good to anyone, right? So like, as an industrial mechanic, you're making good coin. You're making like 100 to 150 grand a year is decent, right? So I did that for a while. And then as I moved out of that, I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to make 150 grand this year. The odds are very slim. What can I do to make as much money as I possibly can? So I'm like, all right, let me dive into, I was still doing elusive. I was still doing the automotive stuff, but as that changed and as that pivoted, I was working on the art. And there's a reason why they say, starving artist, especially at the early stages when you're just starting out as an artist. You better believe that it's going to be hard to sell, and if you do sell, you're going to sell for a low amount. And that's why I was like, and also with making things, taking time to do that, and then gifting them, that's an expense, right? That's an expense. So I was doing that a lot and just kind of getting my name out there. But at the same time, I actually made Marchese movers. So I had a moving company, and I was doing like commercial moving jobs. And I picked up commercial moving jobs right away, right off the bat. And I was like, holy fuck. I was thinking that I was not going to make 150K this year. It's only been 2 months and I've already made 50K. So, picking up these big commercial moving jobs were absolutely fantastic for me. So I started doing that. I started making some money there. Made close to 500K that year, first year in it. And I'm like, okay, well, this is great. Now let me take this money and put it into a vehicle that I'd rather be in, because as much as the moving was great and I made good money doing it, I don't want to be working with my hands. And I don't even want to take the liability and responsibility to have people on the streets driving trucks and this and that. I want to do something that's more business, more corporate. So that's when I, took some of my money and invested it into started getting like A players in place for marketing, right? Really securing in proper vendors. Got our office down in Brickell, downtown Miami there, and then just started bringing people in, building the team, building the force, and just started to put those systems in place, and we just ramped things up really, really quickly. So I was working with my partner Van Dennis. He's got his own marketing agency as well, but we partnered together as like a JV. And he's been in the industry for, like close to 15 years now. So he's out in Miami and kind of leveraged what he had with what I had in terms of like my delivery with the different content providers and email marketing and things like that, as he was doing strictly advertising. We put those two together and it was just a powerhouse. Within 3 years of us working together, we did close to 550 million in return on ad spends
Wow.
through Google. Yeah, so that's when things really changed quickly, and it's crazy the way that things work, but it's really partnering up with the right people. Truly is, who today is more important than anything. It's not about what you know anymore; it's about who you know. What you know is definitely important. Don't get me wrong. Otherwise, you're gonna get the wool pulled over your eyes, or you're gonna be fooled, right? So you gotta have some knowledge. That's definitely important. But it's really crucial who you know and who you surround yourself with, because like you look at my story from like the humble beginnings of where I was and who I was surrounded with. There was a reason why I wasn't in a growth mindset or an abundance mindset. It was because I was constantly surrounded by, scarcity and lack and negativity. But when you remove yourself from that and put yourself around people that have that same mindset, you guys elevate each other, right? It's At the end of the day, we're just particles floating in air, right? And those negative and positive charges, that makes a big difference. You hang around with negative people, you're going to be negative. You hang around with positive people, you're going to be positive. It's that simple, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's incredible. Again, Chris, I mean, all of those lessons, those components, and I want to touch on something, real quick. I've had a few viewers ask this question previously, and I think you'd be the perfect guest to answer this. Is a lot of people say they struggle with sales, right? And my approach on it is not necessarily that they're struggling with sales. I usually look at it as usually a lead problem, or they're struggling with an ample amount of leads.
Right.
Sales will follow through because it's a numbers aspect.
It is.
What are your thoughts? And if someone wanted to overcome that leads or that sales challenge, what do you recommend?
For sure. Um, I think one of the crucial things, especially when starting out, is you've got to be your best salesman. You've got no choice. You have to be the best salesman or saleswoman, right? You got to be in charge of your sales when it comes to the business. That's the number one thing. If you're not bringing in revenue, you're not a business, right? So if you can start bringing in some revenue and then building a repeatable process that's a rinse and repeat for you to do, you can now scale that, and now you can delegate to somebody else, right? And that's the most important thing for sure. Because if you get into it and you're like, okay, I need somebody to do sales for me, I want to focus on this. A lot of people get focused on the wrong things. You're like, okay, all right, I'm going to build a business. What do I got to do first? Okay, I need a website. I need business cards. I need decals on my car. I need a promotional video. No, you need sales. You need to make money. Make money. That's the number one thing. Make money, and then do those things. But obviously, there's two sides of it, and I say this all the time. Being a marketing and sales guy, you need marketing to get sales, and you need sales to get marketing. It's hand in hand, right? Like, you can have the best product in the world that can cure cancer, but if you don't market it and nobody knows who you are, guess what? Nobody's buying it, right? So marketing is very important, but when it comes down to the sales side of things, initially, yeah, be on the phones, be the one cold calling, be the one making those connections, going to those events, really nurturing those leads. That's what it comes down to. The more time that you're out there and you're putting yourself out there, you're most likely going to generate some sales and generate some leads, right? And that's what it is. It's just a consistency thing. And like you said, it's sheer numbers. If you call 100, whatever the number is, just say, you call 100 people a day, and it takes you know 200 calls to make one deal. So you're gonna make, you know, 400 calls over those days, then you're gonna get 2 sales. But now by knowing those numbers, you know what you've got to do, and you just ramp that up. You just ramp that up, you ramp that up, and you get better and you get better and you get better. And now you're okay, 100 calls gets me 1 close. Okay, 50 calls gets me 1 close. And then you just ramp it up again, right? So it's just it's a sheer numbers game. Um, you have to have self-confidence though. And that's one of the things I think that people really lack when they get into business and they want to make sales. It's like, all right, I got to call these people. You call one person, the person's like, no, I'm not interested. And they hang up on you. And you're like, oh, you're deflated. Me, luckily, I got into sales immediately out of high school, working at the gym, right? And I'm like, okay, I was on the phone all day, all day, all day. I was enjoying it. I was loving it. I'm like, the more people I call, the closer I am to a yes. And I learned that when I was 18, 19, and that's always been my mindset, since then. And that's how I train my sales team. That's how I train my closers. That's how I train my setters. That's how I train my sales managers. I make sure that they feel that exact same way and have that self-confidence. Like, one of my partners, he says it all the time. When you get on that phone, be sharp as hell, sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and then, really give them that energy. And that's what we do. And that's how we close. Like when I call people, I love it. I absolutely love it because at the end of the call, they're like, Chris, this is the best cold call I've ever had. I really love the transparency, the energy, this, that. I'm like, oh man, that makes me feel good. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. And that's how you get deals. That's how you close people, right? It's listen to them, let them talk, understand them, bridge their pain points, and gap that with the solution that you have to offer.
It's having that resilience and not taking it personally. I think that's one of the things is that people take it personally. People are busy. And how do we react when someone calls us, right? Same thing. Majority of the time, it's going to be a no because you're focused elsewhere. But if you can figure out that pain that someone is going through and you can actually, touch on it and talk about it, you've got an opportunity, right? And that's what people miss. So they're usually in it for themselves. And sales isn't about yourself; it's about what the other person needs. And if you can identify that, then you're golden.
Yeah, yeah. Most people, they're not losing sleep over your product or your service at the end of the night. It's something completely different. If you can figure out what that something is and you can educate them on that, you can sell them. Like I don't I know you read a lot as well, but like two of my favorite books um that I've used within my business a lot that have really helped me become successful, not only within the business, but within my own personal life and building that mindset of resilience. Um, I've I absolutely love The Ultimate Sales Machine. So The Ultimate Sales Machine, Chet Holmes, absolutely incredible book. And he was working with Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, and really helping them scale. And that's exactly what we do. Like we help them with sales and we help them with marketing, and that's exactly what they do and what they did for a long, long time. So everything that he talks about really, really resonates with me. If you haven't read that book, I suggest reading it to anyone that's listening. And then also Ready Fire Aim. Ready Fire Aim is probably my favorite book out of all of them, realistically, and that's Ready Fire Aim 0 to 500 million in no time flat. So it shows you, going from 0 to that 1 million mark, that 1 million mark to 10 million, to 10 million to 100 million plus. And it shows you, the exact systems of what you have to do and how you have to do it. And a lot of these people that we see today that are super successful have used those books as like frameworks, right? So that's kind of where we are now with everything. And I'm using a lot of those books as my own teachings for my own company culture and my own team, and helping people really see that big possibility. And that's what it is. Like the story of Apple when they're building like the Macintosh computer. I'm sure you know about it, but having their names stamped on each one of these computers as they're being built, and like feeling like they're part of something bigger than themselves, right? And that's what you have to do for people, especially when you're building a company culture and building a vision for the future. You have to let people see that it's not just about themselves, and that stems right back down to sales, right? It's not just about you; it's about the other person, what you can do for them, and how you can help them. And when you have true authenticity behind selling somebody like that, like you remove yourself from the end result. Like if I'm selling to somebody and they don't see my product or my service as a gift, then that's their problem. That's their own prerogative, right? Like I'm here to give you a gift to help you become more successful. And I'm going to give you that as a monetary value back to me, right? So I'll give you my time, I'll give you my efforts, I'll give you my expertise and my knowledge to take some monetary value back, and that's a perfectly fair trade-off, right? Um, a lot of the time, people will buy into something and they don't get what they actually paid for, right? And I think that's one of the big problems with purchasing things online now today is having that trust factor. And that's why I say, build that authenticity. Really listen to the person, understand them, build a relationship with them. If you don't sell them on the first call, that's fine. Have have touch points. A lot of the time, I'm like 7 touch points. After the seventh touch point, we let it rest. But then we'll come back and we'll target them again. But it'll be in a later time frame. But we have those 7 touch points over, a 2 month span, emails, calls, texts, whatever it is. But that's kind of how we do it and make sure that we're nurturing and really being there for our clients. If you can be there for your clients, you're gonna have a continued relationship. There'll be longevity to it. You'll see that lifetime value increase.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and I'm going to ask you, our last question here before we go into a rapid fire,
Yeah.
and that is going to be the best piece of advice you've ever received in business.
Okay. Hmm. Best piece of advice. I like that. Um, so yeah, Bob Proctor actually, he was my mentor for quite some time prior to his passing away. And one of the things that sticks with me today, it's actually my screensaver. Um, but it's him talking about just really envisioning the future and just being constantly grateful for where you are. Um, and removing yourself again from like where you plan to be. Like me myself, I have all these dreams, these aspirations, these things that I want to achieve, and of course they're at the forefront of my mind. But at the same time, I do my best to make sure that I stay present in the moment rather than like, okay, I'm not going to be happy until I achieve X, Y, and Z. If you live like that, by the time you actually hit X, Y, and Z, you're probably not going to be nearly as happy as you thought you would be. So I think it's very important to live in the moment, be present, be grateful for the people and the things that you have in your life already, and every single day be thankful for it and build upon it. That's one of the things that really resonates with me that he said, that I picked up and that I've given back to others to take for themselves as well. And I see a lot of people change. You know what I mean? Like it's really a paradigm shift, seeing things from a different perspective rather than like operating from a place of lack. You're operating from a place of abundance, right? And that gets you so much further.
Oh, absolutely. And you're living in the now, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
And you're at that point grateful for what you have. What will come at the time it will, but it allows you to be grateful for what you have now and constantly smile and be appreciative. So
When you're going from person A to person B, a lot of the time people get that imposter syndrome, right? Where they feel like, okay, I'm not that person, so I can't act as if that person is me. But that's not true. It's a matter of actually stepping into the shoes of that person, 5 years, 10 years from now, and talking like that person does, walking like that person does, having the same mannerisms as that person, and just fully embody that right away. Don't hesitate and say, okay, that person's on me. I'll be that person in 5 years or 10 years when I achieve this, this, and this. It's like, no, no, no. You are that person now. You tell yourself that. And it's all here. It all stems from here. As long as you can tell yourself that and you can do the things that that person would do, our thoughts become our feelings become our actions, and our actions become our habits, and then our habits become our lifestyle entirely, right? So it's a step-by-step process. And I
spot on.
want people to really feel that and figure that out and just do that. Just embody it. Just be that person now.
Spot on. Before we go into our rapid fire, I'm going to share a quick story on this note here. When I got my first offer from Microsoft, I was imposter syndrome. Like, how did I end up getting this? I knew I wanted it. I aspired towards it. I did all of that. And it was just like I couldn't believe I was there. And even throughout, and a lot of folks at Microsoft I talk to, they deal with and live with imposter syndrome on a day-to-day basis. And there was a TED talk by Amy Cuddy. I still remember that. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No, I haven't.
And
So,
incredible TED talk. And um, I'll put the name in the comments or in the description, but the name is slipping for me, and the link I'll put in as well. But it's by Amy Cuddy, and it talks about that aspect of being and believing you're in that role, in that position, in that place already, and then you act like it's called fake it till you make it. That's what it is.
yep,
Fake it till you make it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And that's the reality. And it took me by surprise at first. I'm like, it feels so phony, it feels so fake.
Right.
And Chris, before I even know it, getting in front of clients, doing presentations, doing all of that was so far stretched for me that I was like, I'm not that guy. And now I'm on stages doing keynotes. I'm in front of, hundreds and thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it's just like when I reflect back and I look back and I don't forget that moment and that's why I remember that episode or that YouTube video so well, is because it transformed my way of looking at it. Right. So I'll send you a link for that one as well. And I'll put that in the description for our listeners, but an incredible one for people who don't think that they're that individual or they can get there. It's not as hard as they think. It's
No.
very easy.
Me, when I was younger, I was like, ugh, I really am not going to speak in front of the class. Like, I'm not going to speak on stages. That's just not me. That's not who I am. And I remember that the same thing, like that one day that I was invited to go and speak on stage in front of thousands of people for the first time in, ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is a little bit nerve-wracking, but this is the person who I'm supposed to be. This is who I said I was going to be. This is what I said I want to do. And it's funny because I was in Florida, and I made an art piece for Daniel G. Actually, I made an art piece for him because we talk once in a while. He's a friend of friends, and I was down in Florida and I was heading over to his event. So I brought an art piece and I gave it to him, and I'm like, "Hey, here you go, brother." We took some photos, we talked, blah 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 blah. Went out afterwards and hung out. And I was telling him, like, in the next 2 to 3 months, I'm going to guarantee you that I'm going to be speaking on stage with you. Just watch. Because like I came to this event just kind of see things. This is when I was just kind of like getting into the speaker side of the business. And I'm no word of a lie. 2 months later, we're here in Toronto and we're speaking on the exact same stage. And
Love it.
that's alignment. That's manifestation. That's believing in something, telling yourself that you're going to achieve it, and all of a sudden it happens because you put in the work.
It's funny. My 10-year-old daughter, 11-year-old daughter now, 10. She was 10 when she said this, and she goes to me one day. She goes, "Dad, do you know how cool the brain is?" I'm like, "Yeah, the brain's cool." She goes, "Think about it. It named itself," and I'm like, "That is so true. That is so powerful. We don't even think of that. The name, the brain named itself. If you think about that, right? So that's the power behind it." And so anyway, so let's switch gears, my friend. Rapid fire segment. It's quick questions I'm going to ask you. First thing comes to mind, throw it my way, and let's see where it goes. First one's easy. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Yeah. One gadget you can't live without.
Laptop for sure.
Biggest red flag in a business deal?
Wanting too much equity or too much compensation.
So a one-sided deal, pretty much, right? um, Thoughts on AI, the future or a fad?
Oh, the future, 100%.
And my last question: if animals could speak outside of any pets you have, which one would you want to have a conversation with?
Mm. The lion, the king of the jungle.
King of the jungle. There you go. Chris, thank you very much. It was a true pleasure to have you on. I absolutely enjoyed the conversation. I hope our listeners gained a lot of value out of this conversation as well. And if they want to get in touch with you, I'll put your contact details in the description as well. And they're more than happy to connect and reach out. But thank you very much for being on again.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Absolutely enjoyed it. And thank you very much, TJ. Appreciate your time.